In order to move forward, you ultimately have to change how you speak to yourself and you ultimately have to learn to forgive yourself. Otherwise, you're still carrying around all those past mistakes and you're not going to be able to move forward. You're going to be stuck.
Welcome to the Dad Central Show, the podcast that helps overwhelmed dads conquer stress, build confidence, and become the father their family brags about. Join Drew Solon, a leadership coach and father of five, and Ed Gow Jr., a fatherhood advocate and contributor to the Good Men Project, as we guide you through the journey of fatherhood. We'll show you how to connect deeply with your family, manage your time and energy better, and master tools to become the dad you want to be. Let's get started. The start of a new year offers a chance for a fresh start, and as dads, we have the power to shape the kind of father we want to be. But how do we go about it? Today, we'll be exploring practical tips on setting meaningful goals, forming habits based on the kind of dad you want to become, and overcoming past failures that may be holding you back. So, the title of our episode today is A New Year, A New Dad, How to Design the Fatherhood You Want. And we're going to be talking about setting intentional goals for fatherhood, designing identity-based habits, overcoming past failures and embracing growth. And that's it for today. So happy New Year to everybody and happy New Year to you, Drew. What's going on?
Thank you, Ed. Happy New Year to you too. Looking forward to a great year. How about you?
I'm no, I look at forward to great days, but I'll take the year too. I take it day by day, but certainly looking forward to a great year. I know it was a challenge for a number of dads, fathers, and meal givers, but we're here to let the sun shine in and through them and their families in 2026.
Yeah, and I hope that we can continue to meet dads or those who support dads through this show and come alongside them and help them if, let's say, they're facing those challenges. We can be a support, we can be a help, we can be an inspirational story, we can be a practical tidbit that they take and apply, and they see a positive difference in themselves, in their fatherhood experience, in their families, and just in general in their life. So that's what I'm excited about for a new year and another year of the show.
Excellent. And for those who are new, because it is a new year to us, you are watching or listening to that Central Parenting podcast to reduce stress and build confidence in fatherhood. Also, our show is sponsored again for another year by Dove Men Plus Care. Dove Men Plus Care believes that care is the best of a man because when men care for themselves and others, there's a positive impact. And we have a little bit of a change for the show this year, Drew. So why don't you give a quick drop on that?
Well, first one, I think we're going to be publishing the show now on Thursdays instead of Monday, which has been our typical publishing days. And we also have a new segment that we're excited about. And I'll mention it now, but we'll probably mention it later as well. We really want to help dads in their most pressing challenges. And so we're going to do that by answering dad questions. So if you are a dad who hears something on the show, or you're just in your fatherhood, you have a question, you really like some feedback or answers, we'd love to feature your question and answer it live on the show. So we'll talk more about it later, but those are two changes I'm excited about.
All right. Well, let's get right into it. When we're talking about a new year, a new dad, how to design the fatherhood you would want in 2026, what strikes you first off the top of your head?
Hmm. For me, it's about like the connection and the relationship, and then ultimately the impact I'm seeing in my family and in my kids. So I want my fatherhood to have a measurable positive influence on my family. And so I think about that. I think about, okay, what can I do this year that continues on or improves that even more? How about you, Ed? What comes to mind for you?
Uh, I would say that's a really I could spend the whole show on this. So I'm going to take the first thing that comes to my alleged mind. Being intentional with your fatherhood. That's what I would say. Being intentional on being a little bit better of a dad each day, a little bit better each day, being intentional on being a little bit better as a father. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. Does that pass?
I'm not grading you.
Aw.
So you're good.
All right. All right. All right. Well, let's get into our first segment, setting intentional goals for fatherhood. What comes to your mind? What do you want to share about that?
Well, it goes back to what I talked about before. And, for me, I want to set goals that align with my values, that align with our family values as well. Not just, I know I'm saying my values, but the values that we as a family, Kristen and I feel are important. Um, and making sure that the actions or the choices, ultimately, because we're faced with many decisions throughout the year, when we are confronted with those, do we have a framework of which to apply so that we know that we're continually moving towards the outcomes that we're seeking or the values being embedded in how we do things as a family? So that's what I think about. I think about having the right foundation and making sure that we're making decisions and moving towards those on a consistent basis. And that's a tough word, consistency, but that's what I think of.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, I will add also, and I mentioned at the beginning of a few moments ago, setting those intentional, measurable goals in fatherhood. And, here's some examples: spending quality time with kids, improving communications with your partner, and building better emotional support systems. And, having those things, those SMART goals. I know many people have heard them, but we have to say that acronym SMART, SMART, the specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound goals when it comes to fatherhood. Drew, anything you want to add with what I just shared there? Anything you want to add on to?
Yeah, I think I'll talk specifically about a goal that I have by the end of this year. And the goal is that I would like to spend one weekend with each of my children before the end of the year. And that's like a one on one weekend. It may not have to be the full weekend, but at least one overnight with each of the children on my own. And why that's a goal is because I go back to the relationship piece. And in a family with, five kids, it's really rare, but to get one on one time with kids. And so, to condense a full 24 plus hour period of time just with me and another child is an opportunity to get to know them deeper, to hear what's going on in their world, to be completely uninterrupted and not distracted by anything else because the focus is them, and for them to also have a fun, memorable experience because it won't just be us hanging out; it'll be doing something that they're interested in, and so they create some memories. And so to me, that goal is about deepening what I talked about as a value of relationship, and it also is relevant in our context because we have a busy family and one-on-one time is at a premium. But by me intentionally saying I'm going to do this and setting aside the time and committing to each child, it also lets them know that they individually are important to me. And I think at this age and stage, my twins will be 13, Sophia's 15, turning 16 at the end of the year. There's a lot of things vying for their attention, and as well impacting their sense of self and identity as young women. And for me, I want to be a powerful, positive influence for their self worth and their identity. And I feel like this is a crucial time to do it. And my son's also 10, and he's, also getting to that age where a lot of these other influences could be impacting him. And I want to, again, be able to speak directly to, their sense of identity, their sense of value. And so that's what's I've established as a goal. So hopefully people can hear within that SMART framework, as well as something that's relevant for my and our family values, and they can take it and adapt it to them.
Nice. I'll just add on to that, just an actual takeaway for our listeners and viewers. Jot down 2 or 3 specific goals that you want to achieve this year and write them down where you can see them. So, for example, you may have write down, this year I will spend 30 minutes of uninterrupted time with my kids each day. So put that in visible places like your wallet, joking aside, but I'm being serious, maybe in your bathroom and in your fridge, because last I checked, most of us need to eat and we have to get rid of most of what we eat. So those would be 2 places that you may want to put those little reminders. Drew doesn't like that, but hey, it works. It works. All right, before
Starting out 2026 graphic, Ed. There we go.
there you go. Gotta do it. Gotta do it. Let's move on to our next segment, designing identity based habits.
Yeah, and I think there's a great question we have here that dads may want to ponder is how can we as fathers make lasting changes in our fatherhood journey? The other thing that comes to mind in terms of this idea of identity based habits is the great work of BJ Fogg, where he called Tiny Habits. There's a great YouTube video on it or TED video on it. You should take a look at it. But the point is, identity based habits are similar to what I talked about before in terms of values. They're habits that align with the person that you want to be, not just the outcomes you want to achieve. And so this is, I love the phrase, this is about becoming. And so let's say, you want to be a dad who really listens well. And maybe you're not the best listener right now, but what you want to do is build habits that as if you were a great listener. And so one of those habits might be similar to what was just mentioned before, but it might be when your kids get home from school or when you come home, that you set aside 5 minutes with each kid just to simply give them uninterrupted time where you listen to everything they say. That habit is built off of the identity of I'm a good listener. And so that to me is is a really powerful way to look at it in terms of the dad you are or the dad you want to be. Which often I think dads can relate to this is we often look at the mistakes we've made and the errors or the failures and we that takes up an inordinate amount of how we view ourselves instead of who we want to be. And so this helps us shift into I'm a dad who listens, even if we're not the best listener right now. And it helps you create habits that align with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, and I'll just add on to what Drew has said that how to shift your identity. Here's two perfect examples. You could say, "I want to be a better dad." You want to shift that to, I am an present, engaged father." And then another example of identity-based habits. There's, "I'm a dad who listens first," versus, "I want to be a better communicator." So those are some examples here, and a takeaway or an actual thing that our listeners and viewers can go into is that to think about one key part of your fatherhood identity. So, for example, one of the things that Drew really prioritizes, whether we're live or offline, is connection. Connection. He always shares that with dads that he is working with and dads that this is the connection piece. Now, identify one small action you can take every day to reinforce that identity. So, for example, actively listening to your child when they talk. So it's the small things that lead into the big things. Let's go to our next segment, overcoming past failures and embracing growth.
Can I add one quick thing before we go to the next segment about that last
Sure,
piece? You know,
sure.
actively listening is one thing, but two or three small things intentionally putting away what's in front of me, looking at my child eye to eye, okay, and repeating back to them is important. So sometimes we'll say we're listening, but we won't actually put the distractions away. And I think that's an important one. Eye contact is crucial to actually show another person you're listening.
I actually, one other thing I'll add to that too, not only what your child is saying, but what they're not saying. And also another thing, body
Yeah.
language.
Look at their
Make sure,
body language,
yeah, the body
tone of
language too,
voice.
and tone of voice, all those things matter. And hey, we don't expect you to be 100% of the box, but a little bit better. Notice those things and you can grow into it. Now we'll get into overcoming past failures and embracing growth. Drew, your time. Go for it.
Years ago, I wrote an article. I think it was called Five Steps to Overcome Your Mistakes as a Dad. And the reason I wrote the article is because I recognized how hard I'd been on myself about any mistakes that I might make. And I knew that it was important. And I was thinking other dads might be like this as well. So one of the first things I identified there was one, you have to identify that self-critical voice. And second, you have to learn to forgive yourself. And so, I mean, those are two pieces I'll just mention now. So if you've struggled in the past with being the dad you want to be, in order to move forward, you ultimately have to change how you speak to yourself and you ultimately have to learn to forgive yourself. Otherwise, you're still carrying around all those past mistakes and you're not going to be able to move forward. You're going to be stuck. And so for me, the other part of it is, it's kind of that old Carol Dweck growth versus fixed mindset. If you keep carrying around those mistakes, you're really in this fixed mindset. I've made a mistake, I can't ever improve it. Whereas the growth mindset says mistakes are actually part of what helps me grow. When I make a mistake, it's an opportunity for me then to recognize where where I can change, where I can be different, where I can overcome something that has been keeping me not where I want to be. So I think that's an important piece for dads, right? You want to reframe these mistakes as learning opportunities and then begin building the self-compassion and the recognition that this does not define me, but what I do next is truly the mark of what makes me a different type of father. Those are some thoughts. How about for you?
Yeah, I'll just add on some phrases that failure is a moment, it's not a person. It's just a moment. And take the opportunity, as Drew said, to learn from it and grow. And if you're going to have failures, fail fast, right? And they're fail fast and use it as learning opportunities, and also have ways of bouncing back from your failures. So yes, if you make a mistake, yes, acknowledge it. It's just a moment. Now, what have you learned from that mistake, and how can you move forward in a positive way? So
Yeah.
I want to say to dads, reflect on one past failure and how you can reframe it as a stepping stone to become part of the dad you want to be in 2026. I challenge you to practice self-compassion. Self-compassion is so important, and embrace growth over perfection. Growth over perfection. Like I always say, you don't have to be perfect all the time. You just have to be perfect at the right time. So that's the way I like to phrase it. Anything you want to add on to the points that we just shared before we start closing it out?
No, well done. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you. So, in today's episode, we covered setting intentional goals for fatherhood. We also covered designing identity based habits, also overcoming past failures and embracing growth. So, some key points: goal setting for fathers. Focus on setting clear, meaningful goals, SMART goals for fatherhood, ensuring they are specific, measurable, achievable, and aligned with your values. Also, identity based habits. Build habits that reflect the kind of father you want to be, such as, quote, I'm a present and engaged dad. Then, overcoming past failures. Reframe past setbacks and opportunities for growth, and practice self-compassion and embrace the idea of fatherhood is a journey, not a destination. Drew, what resource do we have for our listeners and viewers today?
It is our Fatherhood Fundamentals email course. You go to dadcentral.ca, and it's right there at the top of the page. Put your email address in and hit submit. Course will get started. So that's our resource.
Excellent. So before we close out, as we said at the beginning of our conversation today, we would like you to we'd like to answer your questions on the show about fatherhood. So please feel free to email your questions to podcast@dadcentral.ca. And we are excited to get questions and excited to answer. Now, there may be some that may take us offline, but we'll get them to you and we'll have fun with it. So I want to just say this in the ending to encourage everyone who's listening or watching. You got this. Dad, remember, small steps today lead to big changes tomorrow. So go ahead, write down your goals, embrace the dad you want to be, and start today. And final question for everybody: what will you do today to begin designing the fatherhood you want in 2026? So, as always, I want to say thank you for sharing the most important thing, your time with us. As always, don't just manage your time, manage your energy. And remember to give yourself grace, and we'll see you soon. Be well.